there is a special problem that some people face when they kind of outlive their era. Okay, an example is Abbie Hoffman. He committed suicide when he was, I think, 53 years old. And part of the reason was he was very much attached to his heyday, which had not been necessarily the 1960s, but the 1960s and the 1970s. People tend to associate the 1960s as all hippies and protests and that sort of thing. But actually, the real tumult of the era was kind of the mid 1960s to the mid 1970s. Abbie Hoffman was very much a part of that, a kind of a star or clown prince part of that. But he found himself very disillusioned because as he got older, things of course changed, and the young people coming up after him were not as politically motivated as the people of his generation had been. And he, according to what my ex-husband told me, Tom Hayden said that he started to feel increasingly irrelevant, like it just wasn't his era. In addition, he seemed to have a problem with the fact that he was growing older, and because he was so associated in his mind with youth rebellion, and he wasn't youthful anymore. Now, that problem of feeling like you kind of outlived your era is not specific to Abbie Hoffman. I think it happens with other people as well. A good example is F. Scott Fitzgerald and Zelda Fitzgerald. The era of the flapper and the jazz age came crashing down on, I think it was October 29th, 1929, with a stock market crash, and the country plunged into the Great Depression. Now, F. Scott Fitzgerald lived a decade after that, but his work was not nearly as popular because his work kind of represented the jazz age, and his wife represented the flapper. And it was no longer the era of the jazz age. It was no longer the jazz age. It was no longer the era of the flapper. And I think he lived to be 19. He lived a decade longer. She lived 18 years longer and died in 1948 in a fire where she was in a sanitarium where because of mental illness. I think part of the thing that contributed to her illness was she was the first flapper, the last flapper, and there weren't any flappers. Okay, and I hope you like hearing that, and will subscribe to my channel and tell other people about it, so maybe it'll grow. Bye.